You want love, but the moment it gets real, something in you quietly reaches for the exit. You fantasize about closeness for weeks, then panic the second it starts acting familiar. He texts back kindly, calmly, on time, and your brain treats that like suspicious behavior. People call it mixed signals. Your nervous system calls it preemptive self-defense. You do not fear romance on paper. You fear the part where it can actually touch you. Research suggests familiar chaos can feel safer than calm when calm once felt uncertain. If love once came with confusion, your body may still brace before your mind catches up. You tell yourself you just need space, but sometimes space is fear wearing soft pajamas. You stop replying for 3 hours, then call that emotional balance and mysterious timing. Sometimes your standards are real. Sometimes fear borrows their outfit and hopes no one notices. One subtype pulls away because calm feels flat after years of emotional roller coasters. Another subtype wants love deeply, but needing anyone feels like handing over the keys. A third subtype trusts chemistry fast, but retreats the minute emotional safety starts working. Your body can read closeness like a fire drill, even when the room is objectively fine. This does not always mean trauma. Sometimes it is habit, hypervigilance, or emotional overtraining. You call him boring, but your nervous system just lost interest in having a weekly crisis. The brain loves what it can predict, even if what it predicts is emotional nonsense in heels. You start missing him most right after you create the distance that was supposed to calm you. So the question is not, do you want love? It is, what does love activate inside you? Healing begins when calm stops feeling empty and starts feeling emotionally readable. You do not always pull away from him. Sometimes you pull away from the version of you that needs him. For some women, longing feels romantic until reality asks them to stop performing and be seen. Your body says retreat now, while your heart is still filling out the application for hope. Studies show predictability often helps attachment, but only after the nervous system stops bracing. Distance lets you project perfection, because fantasy never asks you to be emotionally present. You may call it chemistry when it is really uncertainty wearing a leather jacket. The safer he feels, the louder your hidden question gets. What if this actually matters? And if it matters, losing it would hurt. So your brain files an early evacuation notice. It looks like self-control from outside. Inside, it may be panic in a very tidy blazer. You begin to act casual exactly when your feelings stop being casual. Convenient, terrifying timing. Psychologists often connect this pull-push pattern with fear of vulnerability, not lack of desire. You are not running from affection itself. You are running from what affection could expose. Maybe it is not that you do not trust him. Maybe you do not trust what hope does to you. Hope is awkward. It makes you visible, soft, invested, and frankly a little less sarcastic. You begin reading tiny changes in tone like an FBI agent trapped inside a dating app. Then you lose interest right after the over-analysis drains the life out of the feeling. This is why I got the ick sometimes means my system got overwhelmed before I did. For some women, emotional retreat starts as wisdom and quietly turns into self-sabotage. The hard part is this: your exit strategy may protect you from pain and from love. So the goal is not to force closeness, but to notice when fear starts editing the script. You call it losing feelings, but sometimes you are just losing your tolerance for exposure. The closer he gets, the more your brain starts auditing every risk like unpaid emotional taxes. For some women, affection feels nice until it starts asking for emotional reciprocity. Wanting love is easy. Staying open after it arrives is where the plot gets dramatic. You do not vanish because you feel nothing. You vanish because you suddenly feel too much. That is why your cold phase often begins right after your warm phase starts to feel real. Your body can mistake healthy consistency for the quiet before emotional disaster. Psychology often links this to learned anticipation, not to some mysterious bad taste. When your system expects pain, tenderness can feel less like comfort and more like bait. So yes, sometimes you ghost a good man because your survival brain hates ambiguity with feelings. One common subtype is the woman who trusts intensity because intensity always feels informative. Calm signals can feel empty to her because they do not trigger the old emergency soundtrack. Another subtype wants reliability, but once reliability appears, she starts testing for cracks. She is not trying to ruin it, she is trying to see if it will ruin her first. A third subtype feels safest when attraction stays theoretical, poetic, and 3 miles away. Fantasy is easier because it never texts back at the wrong moment or asks what you feel. That is why longing can feel sweet while commitment feels like an unexpected group project. You want the warmth, the texting, the future talk, just not the surrender hidden inside it. Maybe you are not emotionally unavailable. Maybe you are selectively overwhelmed by intimacy. And that distinction matters because one sounds like identity and the other sounds like healing. You may look detached, but inside you are negotiating with fear, hope, and one tiny spark. spark. You answer slower, smile less, and call it being realistic when it is really emotional retreat. This is where the pattern gets sneaky. Self-protection can look exactly like self-respect. The trick is not to shame the shield, just to notice when it blocks the right person too. If love once felt unpredictable, your system may prefer distance because distance stays obedient. Distance gives you feelings with subtitles. Real closeness arrives with no warning and full volume. You say you need certainty, but too much certainty can make your old defenses wake up. Because certainty means this could become real, and real things can hurt in 3 dimensions. Before love gets a chance, your brain starts collecting tiny flaws like emergency evidence. Your brain loves contingency plans. Unfortunately, it writes them in permanent marker on first dates. You do not need less feeling. You may need a nervous system that stops treating feelings as emergencies. Some evidence suggests regulation grows in safe relationships, not only in isolation and analysis. That means healing is not always be alone and think harder. Shocking, I know. Sometimes closeness heals by proving that not every open door leads to a fire. That relearning happens slowly, not in one magical text, date, or suspiciously deep playlist. It happens when your body survives one honest moment and realizes the ceiling did not collapse. One honest reply, one stayed conversation, one time not running to the nearest emotional exit. That is how trust grows. Less like fireworks, more like your body lowering one shoulder at a time. So if you pull away when love gets real, ask what your system thinks it is saving you from, because you may never have feared love itself. You may have feared its possible cost. You may call it discernment, while fear quietly files all the paperwork behind your back. You say, "I'm just protecting my peace," while your peace quietly misses being known. That is the paradox. Distance can feel peaceful and lonely at the exact same time. Your brain is not dumb. It remembers patterns faster than your optimism files complaints. If someone calm once turned cold, your body may still treat calm as suspicious advertising. So when he is kind, your system sometimes whispers, "Fine, but where's the hidden invoice?" Trust can feel expensive when your emotional budget was wrecked by previous chaos. You want reassurance, then feel trapped by it, then miss it the second it disappears. That loop is not hypocrisy. It is ambivalence with very good hair and terrible timing. You are not impossible to love. You are just harder to rush than your panic prefers. Healthy closeness often looks ordinary at first, which is rude when your brain expects fireworks. No orchestra, no dramatic cliff, just consistency, kindness, and a suspicious lack of chaos. And because nothing is exploding, your brain starts looking for where the explosion is hiding. Hypervigilance is exhausting. Unfortunately, it often mistakes exhaustion for intuition. So before trusting every alarm, ask whether the alarm is current or just historically talented. Your pattern may begin in protection, but it can quietly end in self-abandonment if unchecked. Each time you flee at the first spark of hope, your body learns hope means evacuate. Healing sounds less like never fear again, and more like stay a little longer this time. One more honest sentence, one more unclenched shoulder, one more moment without running. Real courage looks unglamorous. Slower breathing, one honest text, and no dramatic exit. You may not be bad at love. You may just be highly trained in emotional evacuation. Your system learned speed. Leave early, hurt less, explain later, pretend it was intuition. But fast exits are not always wisdom. Sometimes they are panic in sensible shoes. The goal is not to become reckless. It is to stop treating safety like suspicious behavior. Because when love feels steady, your older defenses may call it fake simply for being calm. A nervous system raised on plot twists does not trust chapter titles like Peaceful Sunday. So yes, you may prefer sparks over warmth because sparks feel shorter and therefore safer. Warmth lingers, sparks vanish, and sometimes disappearing feels easier than staying open. What feels boring may sometimes be your body running out of adrenaline, not chemistry. Your body got so used to alarms that silence now needs its own explanation and paperwork. This is why some women trust tension more than tenderness. Tension at least feels familiar. Familiar does not always mean healthy. It just means your body already memorized the route. Your mind may romanticize the chase because the chase delays the terrifying part called arrival. Arrival means the fantasy loses its fog and asks whether you can stay visible in daylight. And daylight is harder when you learn to love from shadows, hints, and half-safe distance. So if you pull away, the first question is not, "What is wrong with me?" but "What feels unsafe?" Unsafe because he is wrong for you, you, or unsafe because being wanted now actually matters. Those are different answers, and confusing them can cost you something quietly beautiful. Healing may start with sending the text you almost deleted and staying for the reply. And that honesty is not small. It is the moment the exit sign stops being the main character. You do not have to feel fearless to stay. Sometimes staying scared is already progress. Growth is often quiet, annoyingly quiet, more like breathing than cinematic transformation. One less defensive joke, one more direct answer, one less vanishing act at midnight. That is how trust gets built. Not in speeches, but in small, boring moments your body survives. Not every calm man is boring. Sometimes he is just not activating your old alarm system. And not every strong feeling is chemistry. Sometimes it is just your cortisol doing theater. Your body does not always speak truth. Sometimes it speaks history with excellent confidence. So before obeying every feeling, ask whether the feeling is current, old, or just loud. You are allowed to pause without disappearing. That sentence alone could save several relationships. Give me a minute is very different from let me quietly leave before I feel too much. A regulated pause keeps connection alive. A fear exit pretends connection was never invited. The more clearly you name the fear, the less it gets to disguise itself as standards. I am scared is often a more honest sentence than he just is not right for me. Not always, of course. Sometimes he truly is wrong. But fear loves using convenient alibis. That is why self-awareness matters more than blind optimism or cynical "I knew it" speeches. You do not need to become someone else. You need safer ways to stay yourself while close. That might mean speaking sooner, leaving slower, and not confusing numbness with maturity. Maturity is not never needing anyone. It is surviving need without treating it like weakness. And maybe that is the real shift, from do not need to need carefully, honestly, and awake. When you name the cost you fear, you stop confusing the cost with love itself. From here, the work is simple, not easy. Catch fear before it reaches the exit. Sometimes the bravest thing you do is stay honest before you stay forever. You can want love and still feel scared. Those two truths are not enemies anymore. The shift begins when you stop asking, should I run? And ask, what do I need? Maybe you need time, maybe reassurance, maybe just one calm person who does not flinch. Not perfection, not instant trust. Just one less exit sign glowing in your chest. That is healing in real life. Smaller alarms, slower escapes, and more honest staying. If this felt uncomfortably accurate, that is probably because your pattern finally got subtitles. If you saw yourself here, leave a quiet sign. Someone else may need that recognition too. Stay close if you want more like this. Your inner chaos deserves better translation.